Hello, scrappy friends. Happy 2019. I am here today with a layout I made for Simple Stories using the Freezin Season collection. I printed 6 different photos and I have a design in mind which involves a cut file. But before I get to that, I just look over my papers, and this collection is so cheery. It's really cute. And I really wanted to use something a little unusual for me, a lot of pattern, but as I'm flowing through it and I'm looking at it with my photos, I feel like my photos are going to get lost. So this was like my favorite paper here. Just so whimsical, which is so what I like. But I was afraid that the photos would just get lost. Looking at it now, I don't think it would have been too bad. At least not the photos portion, but then also I would have to build up some embellishments, and then I felt that those would clash if I used that complete background. While I mentally ponder that, I move on to my photos. I have a design in mind that's going to involve circles. So I purposefully printed a couple of my photos at 3 by 3, the rest of the photos at 2.5 by 2.5. Because I knew I had punches that come in 2.5 and 2 inches, and this EK Success circle cutting tool that I brought out from my tool graveyard to try some 3-inch circles. You'll notice I printed some photos that are zoomed in more and others that are back more, so you see more white space around them, and that's for variety. It's nice to have that in the design to have some close-ups and some far away. The 2 smallest ones that are actually 2-inch circles are the ones with the sled, so they have a lot of open space. The other 2 on the left-hand side up above are cut at the 2.5-inch circles. And then this here are the 3-inch circles, and those are the ones that show my daughter's reactions in their faces very clearly, so I wanted those to be the more prominent circles. This tool I've had probably since the mid-2000s, and like I said, it's been in my tool graveyard, which is a drawer with old tools, and I hadn't gotten rid of it because I remember seeing demos where everyone can use it very, very smoothly. So I keep thinking, I'm going to learn, I'm going to do it, and I hadn't used it for a long time. And you can see here that even with putting glue dots behind, I have had the worst struggle with it. So that tool is just going to go away. It's going to go in the giveaway pile. I think maybe it's just me. I just can't get it right. It must be the amount of pressure that I put on there. So the design I had in my head is of tumbling snowballs, or at least reminiscent of that. I'm staggering the sizes so they sort of nestle as they tumble down, but this one I felt needed to be smaller, and I had plenty of white space. A handy trick for when you have a piece that's too small and you can't hold it outside of the punch is to place a post-it on the back side that serves as a little handle for you to use, and then you can move around your punch and it cuts through both layers, and then you just peel it off. Back to trying out the photos on the papers. You see how now the photos have no white around them and they're just blending into the background, but they pop with that other one. And the darker background was appealing to me. I didn't really want to go with the lighter bright colors or something white, because then I have all my embellishments and they all have white around them. So darker background's what I'm leaning towards, and then using one of these aqua colors to do my snowball effect with a cut file. Of course, you might be thinking, snowballs, why am I not going to use white for the cut file? And I just felt like that's so blasé, you know? It's so expected, and I want to do something a little unexpected. So I decide to pull out the die cuts and sort through them to see which ones I actually want to use on this layout. Having a better idea of what pieces are going to make it onto my page usually helps me decide on the background paper. There's so many cute little critters in this collection and icons. I do have a hard time kind of using random things on a layout. It really has to fit my story or my photos, my mood. So I'm gonna be pretty picky and only have a couple little critters on there. Here I've cut a kind of a scribbly circle out of the aqua paper that's called Snuggle Up. And it was just kind of plain. So I used another cut file. This one, you can see it has more twists and turns. It just reminds me of when a snowball in cartoons is going down a hill and it keeps adding on to it. You know, the snow collects. That's why I liked this cut file. And that one is called Doodle Circle Frame from Sara Hurley. It's in the Silhouette store, and I'll have the ID in the description below. So you can see I cut a whole bunch of them, a couple different sizes. And what happened was my mat's not very sticky and things moved around, and I had a few that just kind of didn't cut well, so I only have partials. So that was actually a happy accident, because then that led me to put some of these partial circles, partial snowballs at the bottom of the layout cut, and then I'll cut at the top, and then everything's going to flow up and down on that diagonal really nicely. You've been watching me audition some pieces, and when I pulled this little penguin guy and put him in that little dome, I really liked him peeking up like that. The little birdie, I really like that look too, and I thought if I had more open spaces, I could do a few more like that. But I didn't have any more of the aqua Snuggle Up paper. So that wasn't going to work out, just having the two critters there. What I thought then was to use that other dome, the other open snowball, and make myself a little journaling spot. That's what I'm doing here. I didn't go with the journaling spots that were in the die cut pieces because it was too small. So I just punched that out of the 4x6 cut apart sheet. I also had pulled out that little trio of mountains, and I put it right behind the photo of my daughter going down on the sled, because I thought that emphasized the going down, the tumbling down. And then everything else was very cute, but it was too much for what I'm going for. So I went to one of my fallbacks, which is the little word strips, because I have to own up to the fact that I am obsessed with word strips. And there are a lot of cute ones in this line. And I forgot to mention that I put the little snow globe with the snowman right in the middle, because it was one big round element and it could fill the space since I didn't have any more of the cut file. As I stick the cut files onto each photo, I shift it around so that it sort of helps emphasize the flow. For instance, this one that I'm sticking down right now, I wanted the loops that stick out the furthest towards the right, because I was putting that die cut there behind it. If I'd stuck it facing towards the inside, it wouldn't fill the space the same way. There goes my first word strip. It's all downhill from here. And I placed it like that because it grounds the mountains rather than them floating on the background. You can see with that bigger photo of my daughter, again, the loops that stick out the furthest, I stuck towards the outside of the design. The cut file around the photo of my husband, I moved around so that it kind of had an oval shape in the middle there. So I did it so that the longer part of the oval followed the line of the snow he's throwing, that's falling down. For these last pieces, I decided to work my way from the bottom up because I didn't know for sure where exactly the title, the Snow Chili, would sit. If there were strands of the cut file that sort of cut into my photo, I've just been snipping those. I'll do a little bit of adjusting as I get my journaling spot into place and my title. I had to shift things up a little bit, and the title cuts across, separating the photos and the journaling. And then it also echoes all the horizontal elements that I have there with the word strips, which are going to go on each photo. It's always important to me that the word phrases are relevant to my photos and my story. So, I put the flurries of fun on the photo where my husband is throwing the snow in a flurry. I wanted to fill in some of the empty spaces, so I used just little snowflake stickers from the sticker pack. And then to tie things together so there's, again, not just floating around, I overlapped some of the stickers into little clusters, including these teeny tiny heart stickers that I couldn't resist using. And they were so hard for me to pick up because my nails are really short right now. I'm going to skip ahead to the sewing because I had to take everything off in order to do the sewing on just the cut file. Here's a quick look at some of the sewing because it's the same repetitive motion. But at the edges, it's a lot easier to pick up your foot and let a length of the thread out and then snip it before you come back. Otherwise, it gets kind of weird tangles on the very edges. And then for anything in the middle, I just went around 2, sometimes 3 times. And I usually try to stop and start at the same place. That way when I go to snip it and then pull the threads towards the back, I've only got one spot I have to do it for each circle. Now let's go back to the layout. Well, I left this in because I know that there are people that are wary about stitching on layouts because they don't want to mess up. And here I messed up. There's a line that was too far down for what I liked. So I just snipped off the back and I've been picking it out. And then you'll see me here. What I do is I smooth the paper from the back on both sides. It's just like when you have a staple and then you take it out and then you have to kind of get the hole to close up. You can do the same thing with stitching. It's not a big deal. You don't even notice it afterwards. So don't be afraid to stitch on your layouts. It's so much fun. Okay, that's my PSA of the day. Now it's time to get everything back on the layout. Oh, I snipped a little bit of the cut file above the penguin because it was a little too close to him. Speeding through it this time as I put the word strips and make the little clusters. If you notice, I also stitched around the dome part of the snow globe, and there is a little word strip that I put on the bottom part of it. So I made a mistake in that this die cut of the mountains was supposed to sit beneath the cut file, and I took it off and I stitched and I couldn't get it back under, so I had to cut a little piece off the end, and that seemed to work out fine. I just hid the bottom with the word strip that goes across there. The title and the snowflakes aren't doing much for me right now, so I'm switching out the snowflakes, which were the little stickers, for the bigger chipboard snowflakes, and I'm placing them basically where the other ones were. Again, some on clusters, some in the spaces between. Off camera, I punched out a circle from a post-it note the same size as my journaling spot, and I wrote out my journaling, and it's too much to fit through the space, so then I gave up on that, and I was doing my draft directly on my journaling spot, and it's still not working out. I too many words. Finally, I just give up, and I just write over it with my pen. It comes out kind of messy, and that happens to me a lot. I'm not crazy about my handwriting, but there are 2 reasons I did it on this layout rather than do some typing. And one is because it's important to have your handwriting on your layouts. 2, I wanted to distinguish it from all the word strips, so typing up my journaling just didn't make sense for here. It would help if I wrote slower, but I just don't have the patience for handwriting. So I employ things like a white pen to just sort of fix some of the boo-boos. Showing you the tail end of lifting my title up on foam dots. I like that a lot better. It was just too flat before. Now it really stands out. Then I did type my date, and I put it up there in one of the little clusters, and it fits right in with the word strips. So here's slow down to real time so you can see it a lot better. Thanks so much for bearing with me. My voice is still a little off because I'm still suffering from the never-ending cough that always lasts for weeks for me. Look at how that dark paper, by the way, that one's called Shivering. How much everything pops off that dark background. I really love it. Now the still photos are coming up. I had a little hard time with a lot of reflection on the photos, but you got to see it live. I want to say thank you to all my subscribers and welcome to all the new subbers. I had a lot of lovely comments on my previous video that was for the giveaway, which is now closed, and I did update the description with the winners. See you here next time.